Welcome to the Global Businesswomen's Pod, hosted by the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. I am Susan Dyson and extremely excited to be your podcast host. In my day job, I am proud to be the CEO, President, and founder of the Chamber. Every Thursday at 6 p.m., we will bring you inspiring stories of women who are leading in the advancement of women and girls. We will take you with us to our premier events. You will meet entrepreneurs, executives, and philanthropists who will empower and inspire you to succeed. So please mark your calendars and join us for the Empowering Global Businesswomen's Pod, Thursday at 6 p.m. So fortunate to have former CNN anchor and best-selling author Brooke Baldwin here to interview Diane. So let's please give Diane and Brooke a warm Texas welcome.
We love Houston, right, DVF?
Yes, and we love Houston, absolutely. I love Houston.
Own it. I know you, I admire you. You're as Susan said, an icon. I love how you talk in the O's about, always wanting to be an oracle. As an oracle, owning it. What does DVF, what does own it mean?
Okay, so this is how it happened. Mm-hmm. When I was a young girl, I did not really know what I wanted to do, but I knew the kind of woman I wanted to be. I wanted to be a woman in charge. I was very lucky because I became a woman in charge very, very early in my life, about, 27, 26, 27, 28 years old. And the more confident because of a little dress. And because of that little dress.
Not just a little dress, a major league.
No, but in French we say la petite robe. And it was a very, very silly little dress, a very simple little dress that all designers at the time say, what is so special about it? And when you see it on a hanger, there's really nothing that special about it. But when women put it on, all of a sudden the body language changes. And so as I was becoming confident, I was sharing my confidence through a dress and making other women confident. Then later people would say, who is the DVF woman? Who do you design for? And I would say, the woman in charge. So in charge was always this umbrella over everything that I did. And I never really thought too much about it. And then when I start, I always do these big, huge events for International Women's Month. And I have the conference and I had I do all those things, and in charge was kind of the big umbrella for it.
Yeah.
But then I realized that when you say in charge, it could be a little intimidating or a little aggressive, more important. And really, truly, to be in charge is not aggressive. It's a commitment to ourselves. It's owning who we are. We own our imperfection, they become our asset. We own our vulnerability, it transforms into strength. So the publisher came to me and they wanted to make these little self-help books that are very, very popular. And so originally it was supposed to be called In Charge. And then the more I was working on it, the more I was realizing that everything brings you to owning it. So I decided to call Owning It the secret to life, not of life, to life.
Can I jump in and just ask you, and
yes,
we'll go
please.
through some of the words, and I do know you, and there are certain words I loved, and I loved how you have certain anecdotes, especially.
Which was your favorite?
I loved bed. I loved table. I loved mother. But for people watching, so what she did was, it's literally just words alphabetically through this beautiful book, A to Z, right? Where she defines, these are the DVF definitions. And so how did you even, did you just sit down one day and these are some of your favorite words? These are the words that hold meaning?
Yes, they are the words that speak to me. I wrote them alphabetically, A, B, C.
When I last saw you, we were in your home where you are now. And I know, and before we even came on today, you talked about this whole pandemic has really brought you closer to nature. And I loved your definition of nature. Nature is everything. Everything we eat, build, and use comes from nature. We take it for granted. We abuse it, and yet we totally depend on it. And then you say Leonardo da Vinci, the greatest mind of all time, used to say that the thing he was most proud of among all his accomplishments was that he could read nature.
I love nature more than anything. And the older I get, the more I do. And also, I use it for pattern. All my patterns, everything is always inspired by nature, because all the patterns are in nature, whether it's a bar, everything.
I agree. And I know where your beautiful home is, surrounded by all the trees on the river. And what I also know about you is you love to swim. When you are on your boat, you take your time to swim. And you wrote about this in the book too, about how, what is it, you do your gratitudes, like, this is so much a part of who you are. I mean, yes, you are this glamorous, fashion icon, but you have such deep moments to yourself.
I actually love to be lost in nature. And I am very lucky that we have a boat. And so I spend a lot of time in the boat. And when I do, I swim somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours, far, far in the ocean by myself. And there's a tiny little boat that follows me just in case something happens, but he's not allowed to make noise and he has to be very far. And I think that I'm completely alone. And that's why I don't dive. That's why I don't snorkel, because I don't want to see how many fish are under me. I think I'm alone.
It was sutras. That's how I read about it. Under the S, sutras is what I read about your swimming. And you write also in the beginning, and you mentioned this a second ago, that you finished this book in the pandemic. And as a result, it gave some of these words additional meaning for you.
Yes, I was in the pandemic. And that did give me extra depth, because the pandemic made us reflect how lucky we are and what really matters most. And also it's about resetting a lot of things. So every word had a lot of meaning.
And I have the page turned open to M for mother, and knowing you and having read your memoir and how you talk all about your mother. For people who don't know, I'll read this for you. 18 months before I was born, my mother was liberated from the Nazi concentration camps. She weighed 49 pounds and could barely move. Back in Belgium, her mother fed her bit by bit with food and love. 5 months later, her fiance came back from Switzerland, where he had spent the latter years of the war, and they were married. Her doctor warned them not to have a child, yet I came to life. My life was truly a miracle, as was my mother's survival. I mean, DVF, can you just tell everyone about your mother's survival and how that led to you?
My mother chose life. I realize now, for example, that my mother never told me, be careful. Do you know how lucky it is to have a mother who always say, do it. She made me responsible. But she never, she would not allow me to be afraid. If I was afraid of the dark, she would lock me in a closet. Today she would get arrested. But the truth is that after 5 minutes, you are in the dark. First of all, it doesn't stay dark. And second of all, what is there to be afraid? So she really made me not afraid. And because she was a survivor, she gave me so much strength. And it's only much later, I was already in my 30s when I realized that, because I remember I was getting an award, I was already famous and this and that. And the Anti-Defamation League gave me an award. And I didn't want to go there, and I was completely into something else. And I remember my sister said, yes, you have to go there. These are your customers. So I went there and I was totally not interested. And then I started to listen to the program. And then I got more and more involved. By the time I went on the stage to get the award, I said something that not only I had never said, I had never thought it. And that's what I said. You all know me because of my dress, but what you don't know is that 18 months before I was born, my mother was in Auschwitz. And I couldn't believe I said that. I couldn't believe what I heard from my own mouth, and I began to shake, and I left there very quickly, and I walked home, and that was for me a major turning point.
Do you think though, like telling the stories about your mom and never telling you to be careful, do you think she early on instilled in you this notion of owning it before you even knew what owning it was?
Yes.
Did that come from your mother?
Yes, for sure, because what she pushed me ahead, but she made me responsible for myself. What you want your children to be the most is you want your children to be independent. And in order to make your children independent, you have to make them responsible, right? And that's owning it, right?
I mean, let me just sit here and confess that you have been such a, I mean, you're more than you're my fairy godmother is the best way to put it. You're so many women's fairy godmothers. And I just, to be in your presence, I just, through osmosis, you learn so much. And one of the things, I mean, I've hung out with you and I've journaled when I've come home. And one of the things you say, just to remind everyone watching, is you always say the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself.
No, the most important relationship we have, and not you. We have
is the one
is the relationship we have with ourselves. And once we have that, any other relationship is a plus and not a must. And one thing we know for sure, we don't want to be needy.
So good, so good. Can we talk about bed? Bed. My mother used to bless her bed every night, thankful for the sheets, the blanket, the pillow, and the warmth she has craved during her 13 months of captivity during World War II, where all she had to sleep on was a wooden plank shared with rats. She gave me a sense of respect for the bed. The bed is our most important ritual. That's another good word in this book, ritual. It is where we are conceived, born, loved, lie sick, and die. The bed is where we spend half our time, where we rest, dream, and refresh.
And, we are mostly, most of us are conceived in a bed, and most of us die in a bed, Yes, the bed, ritual. You were talking about ritual.
Yes.
Everything is a ritual. The bed, the table, the bath. Actually, years ago, I did 3 beds. I did a book on bed. It was a photo book, but still, and if you start, instead of going in your shower, okay, you go in your shower. If you go in your shower and it's a ritual, everything, the way you take your vitamin, you do that. It's also realize that things that are a ritual is also living in the present, but you live the moment. You live the moment. Recently, I had a friend who had to have a very, very, very unpleasant surgery, but really unpleasant. It was an exam more than it. And so she was talking to me and she was telling me what she was going to go through. And I didn't know what to say. I really didn't know what do you say. And then I came up with this thing, which she told me was so useful. I said, you know what? Go and do it, and look at the procedure, but look at it as a documentary. Detach yourself a little bit from it, but be present in what is going on. And that is a new advice that I came up with, but it's a very useful thing. So when you go through something really unpleasant, you detach yourself and look at it a little bit as a documentary. So you're still active into it, but you try to push the emotions away from it.
Name for me, from when you wake up in the morning until your head hits the pillow, what are 2 rituals that you do every single day?
I think that when I wake up, and certainly when I go to sleep, I say thank you. When people say, somebody sent me one of those messages, make 3 wishes. And I thought about it, and I said, the only wish I can make is thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm afraid of making wishes because you never know what's on the other side. So that's being grateful is something that I practice. Also, I try to make 1 miracle a day.
What does that mean?
every morning I have this habit that when I do my email, I try to do at least 2 emails that don't benefit me at all. That is just, and with email, especially like you or me, you have a lot of connections. You can make miracles. You can introduce one person to a person that they would never, ever, ever meet and make a miracle. And so I love trying to make a miracle. I mean, using my magic wand. That's another thing. We all have a magic wand. And the more we use a magic wand, the more powerful our magic wand is. And the truth is, and you don't do it for that reason, but the magic wand so often comes back to you and becomes a boomerang.
The good energy returns. What are some of your favorite words in the book?
Oh my God, I love provocative. I love provocative because I like to be provocative. Provocative is one of my favorite words. I love the sound of it. It tickles. It's a combination of a question and an affirmation. Nothing is more provocative than speaking the truth and revealing our imperfection. The provocative part gets the attention, but the truth gets the respect. When I first started my company in my early 20s, I did a lot of personal appearances all around the country: Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Houston, Miami, San Francisco, and it was all so new and exotic to me. A young European Park Avenue princess coming to town to show her easy, affordable little dress is how I was introduced by the local press everywhere. I did not love that definition at all. That's when I decided to become a bit more provocative in my narrative to show that I was not perfect. The words became mine and the story no longer a fairy tale.
So good. It tickles.
But then I also I was very proud of addiction, because I'm not at all an addictive person. But I wrote, it's very short. I wrote, when pleasure becomes prison, it's addiction. I thought that was pretty cool.
That is pretty good. When is the last time you were provocative? This last week?
Oh my God. I tried to, I mean, being provocative is also, everything is always the yin and the yang, right? It's so you talk about something and it's one way, but then you see it the other way. So I don't know when I was provocative, but it's certainly something that I like to do.
You always say to me, like, what, where's the edge, or is it sexy, or is it mysterious? To me, that is provocative, right? It makes it more
edgy.
Edgy, exactly.
Yeah. And another good trick, a big advice trick, is when you are worried about something because you're going to meet somebody, or you're trying to get a job, or you're trying to something, whatever it is, or you're writing a book, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're worried, you think, oh, this person thinks I'm a lightweight, or whatever they think whatever negative you think the person has about you.
You pointed out.
The best way to handle it is you bring it first. You bring it first. By you bringing first, you immediately neutralize it.
Like use it as you've said this to me, most definitely the most recent time we were together. But if you are in company with that person, you're saying bringing it to the conversation. I know you may think this, or putting it out there.
That's right. We had this conversation. I remember.
We did.
Yeah.
What do you? Okay. So
what's the best? Let me ask you them.
Okay.
What is the best advice I gave you, Brooke?
I mean, who do I hang out with and then journal with right afterward? But DVF. I mean, it's things like it's the neutralizing, which I did, by the way. It is having the best relationship with ourselves, being really comfortable with being alone, embracing being alone. And also I love nature too, but all of those things. And also I would say, in one of the times I interviewed you, you being so open and authentic about the low points in your life, right? When the company wasn't doing well, or going through a marriage, and knowing that you are this magical human, but you are human also, and you've learned so much.
Also, the in the manifesto of being in charge, the 4 points is connect, so connect people, expand, meet with people, or give real quality people that you normally would not. You think that you're giving them something, but they will enrich you. Then the third one is inspire. Well, nothing is better to inspire than storytelling. But the way to inspire is not that you're successful. Okay, big deal, but people may not relate with that. What is inspiring is when you talk about the obstacle, you talk about the challenges. Even sometimes you're on the cover of a magazine, everybody's applauding you, but you inside you know that things aren't so good because you know what's happening.
Yes.
And at the same time, there may be time that people say, oh, she's over, that's the past, she's over. People think that, but sometimes that's not true either, because you already know that you're changing that. So so all of these things all deal with the complicity you have with yourself. And my big luck, or my big strength, is that for whatever reason, from the beginning of my life, I always practice the truth. I can really look at you in the eye and say, I have never lied. Now, I find ways sometimes to tell the truth in a very nice way, but I've never lied. And most important, I really try not to lie to myself. And that gives you strength. And you mentioned now writing your journal 3 times already since we spoke.
Yes.
And I have written my diary all my life.
You took me to your basement and showed me all the old DVF diaries. Yes. That is, talk about the most truth telling when you are writing on those pages to yourself.
But even if you don't write anything interesting, because very often, if I open the diary, I'm always at a turning point. I mean, it looks like I've done nothing in my life but turn. But even if you don't write anything special, even if you just say thank you or whatever, somehow is the moment of communion with yourself, the ink coming out. There's something that's why I never went to therapy.
What do you want people to take away from this book? I love that young people are loving it. I love that it keeps getting, out of stock on Amazon, and you have to keep restocking it. I mean, it is in demand. It is something it's useful, to use your word. What do you want people to take from this? It's like a mirror. What I want people to take from this is knowing how valuable the relationship with themselves is, and how paying attention and enjoying being alone and be who you really are, and embrace your imperfection, and embrace it. Of course, you should try to be always better and better and better, but owning it. I mean, it is the secret to life. It is a great key. And so this book, I think it has something like 265 words, and every word in some way is a key. And every way, and as a matter of fact, I have the word key in it, and I like what I wrote, and that's provocative. I said something like, keys are made to lock, but actually they're really opening, And I don't know exactly how I wrote it, but it's it's really, yes, they're just keys. They're just keys.
see
Is
what I
this
mean.
the kind of book that we would have on our bedside table, and when we're in
Yes,
need of
yes,
usefulness and
yes.
inspiration,
It's
we just
like
flip
having
through it?
it's like having angel cards. It's like you pull one, you go, you read, you laugh, and yes. And then of course there's a game. There's a little game.
So it's the kind of book that people can just pick up and you can flip through and find inspiration and usefulness through all the various words.
Here's what I wrote. Even though a key is meant to lock, it is mostly the formula to open, access, and discover. And I guess that this book is a tool to open, access, and discover yourself, and enjoy what you discover about yourself, and embrace it. But you see, I said yourself. I shouldn't say yourself. I should say ourselves. And as a matter of fact, in the letter Y, I write you yourself. You and yourselves are the two words that I kept wanting to use in this book. And yet each time I did, it felt patronizing. So I used we and ourselves instead, and that felt right. Anything to learn from this? Maybe to remind ourselves that being part of others make us more understanding, inclusive, and helpful. Loving ourselves, yet being demanding on ourselves, is the best way to remind others to do the same.
I'll be mindful of the yourself and ourselves. Really, DVF, just last question, and we'll get every single person I know will be ordering this book for everyone they know. But you know, as we close and we talked about COVID and nature, like what for you, living through this year plus, what is the number one thing you've learned about you?
I think ever since COVID, I go to sleep at night and I say, I am thankful to be me. I am. I'm so thankful that I am me. And for many reasons, obviously, but because I'm able to always somehow find strength in me. And also I'm at a moment of my life, you know, it's towards the end of my life. I have all the fruits of what I have done. My children are aging, my grandchildren are growing. And my business, I had to make major changes. I had to close so many stores. I had to separate from so many people. It was very difficult. But I remember, like, New York Times called me and they wanted to know. And at the time, I didn't know what was going to happen. I said, I have nothing to say because I may think something in the morning and that by the night I will change. But I said, but I still talk to them because what I wanted them to know is what I was going through. Everybody is going through. And by me owning it, that will help other people to own it. So what I have enjoyed the most about this year is the coherence of it all. You know, and making this book has helped me and has given me a lot of satisfaction because it's also authentic and so real and so I mean, I don't want people to think that I am conceited, but I'm happy to be me, and but to be me is a lot of work, and it doesn't mean that I wake up very often I wake up and I feel like a loser, but you know, then I go in front of the mirror and what do I say to myself? When you doubt your power, you give power to your doubt. You know, so I have practiced for so long, the ups, the downs, the this, the that I have really achieved a wonderful relationship with myself. And because I couldn't move and because I was home, I have been able to, I mean, I'm in my home that I bought when I was 26. I was 26 years old when I bought this house. And of course it has changed and this and that. So I've been here for 47 years. I mean, it's, you know, book, every object, every, children were little, children were big, one husband, another one, I mean, all of this is so I for people who listen, if you're very young, start now. Start making sure that you live your own journey. Yes, there are other people in your journey. Yes, you fall in love, you get married, all of that. But it's your journey. When you're in pain, it's your pain. It's our pain. And just live our lives, live our lives to the fullest and try to be a better person. Because compassion, for example, compassion and empathy is not something that you learn, that you know when you're young. I had no sense of it. I didn't even use the word compassion, didn't understand the word compassion until I had the cancer 26 years ago. I mean, it's life is, you learn every day. I still learn so much. So don't, my advice would say, don't waste time. Just enjoy even the difficult moment. Just live them and deal with them and trust yourself.
Own it. I've got it. I even have, here is the autograph right there. I love you, DVF. Thank you so much. And to Houston and Susan, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you,
Susan. And thank you, Brooke. I love you and good luck every day of your life. This is a whole new life for you. And today is the first day of the rest of your life.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Global Business Women's Pod, brought to you by the Greater Houston Women's Chamber of Commerce. We cannot wait to see you next Thursday at 6 p.m. And remember, you can always find us at GHWCC.org.